All right. Hey there, and welcome to this episode where I want to talk about the power of persistence and why, especially when you're dealing with a mental health struggle, that persistence is one of really the most critical factors and most common traits that I see in people who reach recovery. So, before we dive in, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Matt Codde. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Restored Minds. And if you're looking for help on your journey to recovery, I have some links down in the notes, or you can head directly over to restoredminds.com to get some resources to get you started. And you can also apply for our program called Taking Back Control. Also, please help us out by liking, subscribing, and leaving a nice review for the show. So let's go ahead and dive in, talk about persistence. Now, persistence, we can look up the definition, right? Quote unquote. But really, I'll kind of slap my own definition on it for the case and point of this video. And it's the willingness to keep going, right? To persist in the face of adversity, failure, conflict, all of it, right? Just the inner drive that says, no matter what, I'm moving forward. And why is that so important to your success? So in TBC, I have a whole training, actually, a whole training that I put together on just the 5 common characteristics of people that recover, right? Like what are the 5 main traits that I see in people who recover versus people that don't? And one of them is persistence. If I look back at myself and I was able to evaluate myself in life, probably one of the defining things that has allowed me to be quote unquote successful in various aspects of my life, whether it's my own mental health recovery, to my business, to just various aspects of my life, is persistence. It's my willingness to meet failure and get right back up and keep going. Because failure is not even really failure unless you literally end the journey at that point. That's the only time failure really exists, is when you meet an opposition, you meet a roadblock, and you quit. At that point, you have failed simply because you quit, you stopped. And you then perceive that whatever it was that stopped you to be the reason that you quote unquote failed. Failure is only a reality when you stop, when you give up. And so when it comes to your mental health recovery, the reality is you cannot fail if you keep going. You can't. When it comes to anything in life, as long as you're continuing to move forward on that, and you know this is something that you want and that it's something that you're pursuing wholeheartedly, you cannot fail unless you choose to stop. Because roadblocks and setbacks are going to be inevitable. Okay? The reality is on my journey to my mental health recovery, I went through probably 5 different therapists that I met with before I ever even got diagnosed or correctly. So what that means is I literally met with people and was doing quote unquote therapy and thinking that I was working on myself, but I was getting a bunch of reassurance, or I was getting told to do the wrong intervention, or I was getting told to study the wrong stuff, until I got told one day that or even suggested to me that I might have OCD and anxiety. And you're like, okay, so that's a lot of quote unquote failure, right, that I met, because all that time was spent engaging in the wrong stuff. And through that process, what I learned was simply that was the wrong path. But that was a lot of time and resources, energy to put into that. Now, what happens is some people, they go through an experience like that and they just give up. They throw their hands up in the air and say, that's it. See, it's not meant for me. I'm not supposed to recover. This is who I am. This is how it is. And it's just surrendering. Okay, blah, blah, blah. I'm done. Someone who's persistent, on the other hand, says, okay, this is where I am, and now I'm moving forward. Right? And this is why people that are persistent, why persistence, I should say, is probably the defining characteristic of someone who achieve success. Because it takes a certain inner will, a certain inner perspective, a certain inner state to be met with letdown, right? And feel like you've lost. To look at that state and to then say, you know what, I'm getting up and I'm putting my right foot in front of my left and then my left foot in front of my right, and I'm moving forward. That act is only done in that state of persistence. And the state of persistence is the thing that keeps you going forward. That's what prevents you from failing, is your just willingness to keep going. Really hard to stop someone who is persistent, right? Very, very difficult to stop someone who's persistent. And it's very, very difficult to not be successful if you're persistent as well. And so when you're talking about mental health recovery, I think one of the things that's important to understand is you are going to get met with outcomes you don't like. You're going to, quote unquote, have roadblocks, quote unquote, failures, quote unquote, temporary failures, I'll call them, because they're not permanent. But you're gonna mess up. That's just inevitable on this journey here. You're going to try the wrong stuff. You're going to try the right stuff, but you're going to do it wrong. You're not going to understand a certain nuance. You're not going to know what you don't know. So, as you make mistakes, you just learn. It unfolds. And one of the things, though, that's so important about that is if you wake up every day and persistently pursue your recovery, your well-being, to improve yourself each day, you inevitably will find success. And because here's the thing, it's like, while a lot of people want to present to you the idea that there's this one way to do things, the reality is that depending on what consciousness level you're at, what your dominant state is, what your dominant emotional experience is, there are certain tools that are going to be in certain people that are going to be right for you at that state to move you to the next state. So, and I was just telling this to a small group of people I was working with, is I know, like, I am not for everyone, right? I know my program TBC is not for everyone. It's in people. This program is for people in a certain state, and I'm to work with me, like, I'm meant to work with a certain type of person, and there's other people that are going to be a much better alignment with other people, and that's okay, right? It's not a matter of like there's this exact path. There's a matter of you're going to need certain things on your journey and certain tools and certain resources, and each one of those is going to move you closer to your desired outcome. It's not a thing where this one thing is going to be the thing that does everything, because it just doesn't seem to work like that. We have a progressive level of success. You move to a certain step, and then you move to a certain step, and sometimes a certain mentor is able to help you go 2-3 steps, and then another one needs to get brought in. And the way that you're going to be successful is your inner persistence. And I've seen that in every aspect of my life that's been something I'm pursuing over the long term. Persistence is the number one thing I bring into it. I am one persistent SOB, man. Like, I just have that in me, and I don't know where it comes from exactly, but I know it's there, and I draw from it as much as I can. And if you're struggling with your mental health, like, the thing is I want you, the number one thing that I want you to acquire and develop within is persistence. Before you go into any technique or any person or any program or working with anyone, because if you don't bring persistence into it, the moment things get hard, and they will get hard, that's when you'll throw your hands up and quit. And you have to decide to be someone that says, I'm not quitting. Failure is not an option. I don't care how many times I get kicked off the horse, I'm getting back on it. Like, I will succeed. When you have that mentality of My success is inevitable. It will happen. That fuels the persistence to, again, overcome hardship when it comes in your path. So with that said, I wanted to make that as part of the episode today. I wanted to talk about just that one idea because I think it's so critical and oftentimes just not said enough. And so I wanted to share that today. I hope it was helpful and I hope it benefits you. And with that, I wish you a great day and a great week. See you soon. Hey there. So if you enjoyed that video, we've linked up a few more videos that we think you'd find helpful as well. And if you have found this helpful, we'd really appreciate your support by liking and subscribing. And if you're looking for help and guidance, please check out restoredminds.com as we have several options for you to get started. See you guys soon.